Monsignor Rodriguez was the pastor during the restoration, and he was very good about all the work that was being done, and pretty much gave us full reign. No doors were locked. We were able to go anywhere we wanted to make sure that we were doing things right. And you had to really search out before you started tearing something apart to make sure you weren't causing more damage than you were doing good.
What do you remember about Harry Downey?
Well, I know that, yeah, Mr. Downey was in charge, of course, of the restoration at the Mission Carmela. But the most I can really think about him is he looked like Churchill. We used to call him Churchill. You know, that was our nickname for him, all the guys who were working. Because he wore a brimmed hat and black clothes and so on. But I do think that having somebody like that who had already been through one of these made everybody feel a lot more at ease about tearing something down that had been there for 200 years, you know, to try to rebuild it. Because we all felt, I think all the workers pretty felt the same. We didn't want to cause more damage than we were actually going to end up fixing, you know. So Harry was great, you know, because he'd tell you, oh yeah, sure, go ahead, tear that all out, you know. So, okay, we'll do it.
So was he really a hands-on?
Yeah, like I say, he worked on the Carmel one himself. But he was older then, and he more or less came here just to you know, kind of see how it was going along. He knew where the money was going anyway, you know, on the restoration money. And if there was ever a problem that we weren't sure about something from the original plans of the mission, he was the guy we'd call.
How, you know, this was a tremendously expensive project, I would imagine.
For the time.
Yes, and particularly for the time. And how was the project financed?
Well, the financing of the restoration had been going on for years before it actually was spent. It was the Fiesta Rodeo was originally planned. All the people volunteered from town to do the work, put on the rodeo, and any proceeds went to the mission restoration. So it was a process of years before this actually was going to get put forth. So I think there were a lot of people kind of watching with a keen eye while we were doing this to make sure the money was spent right. So I'll say that much.
Do you think the American Bicentennial kind of pushed the project forward more quickly?
I do agree that the Bicentennial in California was such a big thing for all of California, and being that the missions are the heart of it from the beginning of the establishment of California, yeah, I do believe that they wanted to get it done so that it would be finished before the Bicentennial.
And were there any funds, any monies that came from other sources like the federal government?
Well, I'm not sure about the federal government, but I know that there were a lot of personal, large sums of money personally donated by people that may have been parishioners or not. They may have just been people that were interested in the restorations of the missions, but I do know that a lot of money came from just personal donations.
Insofar as the project, the restoration, what was going on here in the 70s, I can imagine there was a lot of activity. What was the reaction from the community?
Well, yeah, in the 70s, the community was probably wanting to make sure that San Juan Bautista would still be a place that people wanted to visit, because tourism is one of our largest assets here in town. So I think that everyone was concerned about the mission restoration, no matter if they had you know, anything involved with the mission at all or not, or were even members of the church. Because I was asked a lot of times while I was working there, how's it going? You know, how's things going there? You know, and I'm sure everybody was very anxious to see when it was finished what it would look like. And I have to say, I did not hear too many things said about it that were derogatory about the restoration at all. I mean, through the year and a half or whatever, 2 years, what it was, most people were very encouraging, you know, of the work. You guys are doing all right out there, you know. So I got a lot of okays. Well, that way to go, you know.
So, you know, would you say that as far as the people of San Juan Bautista, they were all very supportive of it?
Yes, I do believe that the restoration was supported unanimously by the town. Yeah.
And as far as outsiders, because I know in my own project here at the mission, it's usually been outsiders who usually stepped in to say something.
Yeah.
Did you ever get any kind of negative feedback maybe from outsiders?
Very seldom. there was negative feedback from anybody walking through. Most of it was probably a question of why we were doing it. Some people felt that part of the history of California is to look down at an adobe that's falling down, you know, because that is the history of adobes, you know, with earthquakes in California, and being that they're made out of just clay, that there are a lot of them in ruins. And people feel sometimes that ruins should be left ruins and not restored. But being that this was a parish that was alive and still in existence, it needed to become a church again. And especially it needed to become a three-aisle mission, which it was originally built to be.
When did the project begin, and when did it end, and at what point did you come into the project?
Yeah, the project, I believe, started in '75, sometime in '75, because I started working here for Mike Taylor, who was in charge, who was the construction owner at the time of which came to be Mission Adobe's construction from Santa Cruz, about April of '75. And as I recall, it was finished in '77, so right before the bicentennial of the United States bicentennial, so or right after. That's right, it was right after. So they were trying to get it done as quickly as possible, but yet do it right. You know, do it right the first time was really the emphasis.
If you were to characterize how many months you actually spent working on the project,
Yeah.
how many hours a day, how many days a week, what would that be?
Well, when we were in the early stages, yeah.
Answer it.
Yeah, there we go. In the early stages of the restoration, the big emphasis was to get a lot of bricks built, made. We only had so many months to make bricks, being that in the wintertime they didn't cure well. And in the very hot days, they would crack, and a lot of our work would go to waste. So it was really 8-hour days, but sometimes we worked 9 to 10 hours just to get more bricks made if things were going right, you know. So, and a lot of times Saturdays would be optional. If you really wanted to work, you could work Saturdays doing something.
What time of the year was that? You say that before it got too hot and before it got
Right.
too cold. What months did you actually think were optimal for making adobe bricks?
The spring is probably the best time. We have a good long spring here usually. Indian summer, which would be late fall, or late summer and early fall, and throughout fall and before winter, can be very good, but you get those really hot days sometimes, and you would have to shade the bricks. And being that we were using the rodeo grounds down here as our brick making area, because it was nice and flat, there really wasn't any shade. So it was very important to try to get as much of it done when we could, and then get them stored, and then use them when we had the chance to go ahead and use them.
If you were to tabulate the number of bricks you recall being manufactured, do you have even a wild-eyed projection?
Well, when we first started working here, Mike Taylor said, you know, we're going to need 100,000 brick to fix this, just by guessing, you know. And he'd built quite a few things out of adobe before that. So, you know, in the back of our minds, oh yeah, 100,000 brick, that's going to take a long time to make that many brick, you know, especially, we had days we made 1,200, I remember. We tried to break our record, you know, oh, we're going to make 1,250 today. But the quality got poor toward the end, you know. But anyhow, I would say we made pretty close to 60,000, you know, guessing, just guessing.
Can we do that one over?
Yeah, let's do that one over.
Wait for the car.
Yeah, the car went through.
That was good, though.
Yeah, that was critical.
This guy's great.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you. See, but I think a lot of it really has to do with eye contact. We had the other gentleman talking right into the
wall.
camera.
No, he was talking to a wall.
He
wasn't even looking in the camera.
Oh, okay. And that made it a little more constrained.
Sure.
I mean, I tried to talk to that statue, and I'd have a little bit of difficulty.
I know. I think I would too. And then I feel kind of weird
Not
talking
that I'm much different than the statue.
Hey, sometimes a straight man is a
Yeah,
statue,
that's
right?
right. Okay. Let's see. Oh, the question was about how many bricks would you anticipate? Give me a wild-eyed figure about how many you think you crafted during the time you were here.
Yeah, the number of bricks that it was going to take to actually fix the mission was we were